My name is Rose. I'm 24 now, but the part of the story that matters began when I was 14. I grew up in a house where appearances mattered more than honesty, and where strength was defined by how loud you could laugh at someone else's pain. My father worked long hours and spoke little. My mother lived in denial. And my brother, Daniel, was the golden child. He was 2 years older, tall, athletic, charming in that way boys are when adults decide to see only their potential and ignore their cruelty. Me? I was the opposite. Quiet, sensitive. I'd rather read in my room than play outside. I cried easily, and in a family like mine, that was a weakness stamped on my forehead. My brother called me dead weight. My mom told me to toughen up. My dad didn't say much at all. It wasn't just inside the house. At school, Daniel carried his golden boy reputation, while I lived in his shadow. Teachers compared us. Relatives compared us. Even the neighbors did. Every achievement of his was a reminder of my failure, and I hated myself for how much it hurt. But here's the thing no one knew back then: when you're constantly underestimated, you learn to disappear, and disappearing can be a kind of power. Around that time, I stumbled across something that changed my life: martial arts. Not because I wanted to fight, but because I wanted to stop crying. I joined a dusty little training center 2 towns away, sneaking out with the excuse of extra tutoring. My brother thought it was hilarious. "What are you gonna do, Rose? Kick the air until it apologizes?" He'd laugh, and everyone else would too. But for the first time, I didn't care. I wasn't training to impress anyone. I was training to feel strong enough to stand in a room without shaking, to believe that maybe, just maybe, I was worth more than being a punchline. Looking back now, I see that was the start of something much bigger, but at the time, it was just survival. Daniel's laughter wasn't just a sound, it was a shadow that followed me everywhere. At family dinners, if I stumbled over a word, he'd smirk and repeat it with exaggerated slowness until everyone laughed. At school, he'd brag about being captain of the football team while dropping little comments about how his sister couldn't even run a mile without crying. The worst part? People believed him. Because why wouldn't they? He was confident, handsome, magnetic. I was quiet, awkward, and too emotional. It was easier for people to laugh with him than to defend me. Even my parents. My mom would say things like, "Oh, Daniel, stop teasing your sister," but she'd say it with a smile, like his mockery was harmless. My dad, well, he rarely even looked up from his plate. There's this one memory etched into me like a scar. I was 15. We were at a family barbecue. Relatives everywhere. The smell of grilled meat thick in the air. My uncle asked if I had any plans for the future. Before I could open my mouth, Daniel cut in. "She'll probably just end up crying her way through life. Or maybe she'll join the circus as a professional loser." Everyone laughed. Everyone. I wanted to disappear into the grass. I remember my cheeks burning so hot I thought my skin would peel, and when I finally managed to whisper, "That's not funny," Daniel leaned close and said low enough for only me to hear, "Then stop making it so easy." That night, I went to my room, locked the door, and sobbed into my pillow. But once the tears dried, something in me shifted. I couldn't stop his laughter, couldn't stop the world from believing him, but maybe I could make myself stronger in ways no one could see. So, I threw myself into training. Hours at the dojo, sweat soaking through my clothes, knuckles bruised from punching the bag until I thought my bones would crack. My instructor, Mr. Han, was strict but patient. He didn't laugh when I stumbled. He didn't call me weak when I cried out of frustration. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. "Strength isn't about being the loudest in the room, Rose. It's about standing tall when everyone else expects you to kneel." I clung to those words like a lifeline, because at home, the laughter never stopped. But inside me, something else was growing, quietly, invisibly. By 16, training had become more than survival, it was obsession. I didn't just want to be strong, I wanted to prove them wrong, but I kept it hidden. My family thought I was at the library after school. Daniel joked I was probably crying in the bathroom again. Fine, let him think that. Then came the day everything nearly blew up. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Daniel had invited a bunch of his friends over. I was in the backyard, practicing drills with a staff I'd borrowed from the dojo. The rhythm of it, spin, block, strike, was the only thing that calmed me. I thought no one could see me behind the hedges. I was wrong. Suddenly, I heard clapping. Slow, mocking. My stomach dropped. Daniel and 3 of his friends stood at the edge of the yard, smirking. "What's this?" Daniel said. "Little Rose playing ninja?" His friends laughed. One of them even mimicked my movements in a clumsy, cartoonish way. Heat crawled up my neck. I froze, gripping the staff so hard my knuckles turned white. "Come on, show us a move," Daniel taunted. "Or are you gonna cry again?" I wanted to run. My whole body screamed at me to run, but something in me refused. For once, I didn't drop my eyes. I stood my ground. And that's when Daniel crossed the line. He lunged forward, snatched the staff from my hands, and tossed it into the dirt. "Face it, Rose," he sneered. "You're not strong. You never will be." Something inside me snapped. Years of humiliation, years of silence boiling over. Before I could stop myself, I shoved him back, hard. The look on his face, shock, then rage, was seared into me. His friends gasped. For the first time, I wasn't the punchline. I was the storm. But storms have consequences. Daniel's jaw tightened. And I knew, deep down, this was just the beginning of a war I wasn't ready for. The shove sent Daniel stumbling back a step. But the silence that followed hit harder than anything. His friends stared at me like I'd just committed some unforgivable crime. And maybe, in my family's eyes, I had. Daniel's face twisted into something ugly. He wasn't laughing anymore. "Did you just put your hands on me?" he hissed, brushing dirt from his shirt. I didn't answer. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear, but I didn't look away either. That was new. That was terrifying. One of his friends chuckled nervously. "Yo, your sister's got some fight in her." Daniel snapped his head toward him, then back at me. He stepped closer, invading my space until we were nose to nose. "Don't ever do that again," he said, low and sharp, "or I'll make sure Mom and Dad know what a little liar you are." The threat landed like a blade. He knew I'd been sneaking out. If he exposed me, my parents would lose their minds. I'd be grounded, my training taken away, my small world of strength ripped out from under me. I swallowed hard but forced my voice not to shake. "Go ahead, tell them, see if I care." It was a lie. I cared. I cared so much my stomach hurt, but I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of watching me beg. Daniel's eyes narrowed, and for a split second, I saw it, the flicker of uncertainty, like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the weak little sister he thought I was. But then he smirked, stepping back. "Fine, keep your little secret, but don't think for a second you're fooling anyone. You'll always be pathetic, Rose, always." He turned and walked off, his friends following, though not before one of them gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Admiration? Pity? I didn't know. The moment they were gone, my knees gave out. I sank into the grass, shaking so hard I thought I'd break apart. I'd stood my ground, but at what cost? When I walked back inside, Mom was in the kitchen. She glanced at me, saw my flushed cheeks and messy hair, and frowned. "What were you doing outside?" "Studying," I lied quickly. She didn't press. She never did. Maybe part of me wished she would. Maybe I wanted her to see me, really see me, just once, but she didn't. She turned back to the stove, and I disappeared upstairs, clutching the only truth I had. I was stronger than I'd been yesterday, and tomorrow, I'd be stronger still. From that day on, things shifted, subtle at first. Daniel didn't laugh as loudly when I entered a room. His friends didn't join in as easily. I could feel it, the balance tilting, if only slightly, but with that shift came tension, thick and unspoken, hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. I doubled down on my training, late nights at the dojo, early mornings running through empty streets, fists raw from striking drills. "Mr. Han started to notice. You're carrying something heavy," he said one evening, handing me a towel after sparring. "Use it to sharpen your blade, not break it." I didn't tell him about Daniel. I didn't tell him about the years of humiliation, or the way my brother's words still echoed in my skull even when he was silent. I just nodded and pushed harder. Then came the night Daniel decided to test me again. It was a Friday, the house buzzing with relatives for my mom's birthday dinner. Laughter, Clinking dishes, the smell of roasted chicken filling every corner. I was helping in the kitchen when Daniel strolled in, wearing that smug grin that made my stomach twist. In front of everyone, cousins, aunts, uncles, he said, "Hey, Rose, why don't you show us that little ninja routine you've been practicing? I'm sure everyone could use a good laugh." The room fell quiet. Every eye turned to me. Heat rushed up my neck, but I forced a steady breath. This was it, the test. I set down the plate in my hands, wiped them on a towel, and met his gaze. "Why don't you come outside with me, Daniel?" I said evenly. Gasps, murmurs. My mom's eyebrows shot up. "Rose," she whispered, scandalized. Daniel blinked, then smirked. "Oh, this'll be good." We stepped into the backyard, the cool night air wrapping around us. A circle of relatives followed, curiosity buzzing. Daniel tossed me a stick from the woodpile. "Here, use this. Let's see what you've got." My pulse thundered, but I tightened my grip. The stick felt light compared to the staff I trained with, but it would do. "Ready, little sister?" Daniel taunted. I didn't answer. I just lifted the stick into guard position, and for the first time, it wasn't just about survival, it was about being seen. The backyard lights flickered on, casting a pale glow over the grass. My relatives formed a half circle, murmuring to each other, their faces a mix of amusement and disbelief. To them, this was entertainment. To me, it was war. Daniel twirled the stick like he was in some cheesy action movie, grinning. "Don't cry when I knock you down, Rose." I steadied my breathing, shifting into stance. "Mr. Han's voice echoed in my head, "Control the center. Breathe before you strike. Calm beats chaos." "Come on." Daniel lunged, swinging wide. I sidestepped, the strike slicing empty air. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He turned, laughing. "Lucky dodge." But it wasn't luck. I saw the holes in his movements, sloppy, overconfident. He was strong, but strength without control is just noise. He came at me again, faster. This time, I blocked. The crack of wood meeting wood echoed across the yard. My arms trembled, but I held my ground. His eyes widened. Just a flicker, but enough to tell me he hadn't expected resistance. "Not bad," he sneered, "but try this." He swung hard, aiming for my shoulder. Instinct took over. I ducked, rolled, came up behind him, and pressed the stick lightly against his back, right where his ribs met. Not enough to hurt, just enough to prove a point. The backyard went dead silent. Daniel froze, his chest heaved, and I swear I heard the exact moment his pride cracked. Slowly, he turned, eyes blazing, but before he could speak, Aunt Claire's voice cut through the night. "Rose, where on earth did you learn to do that?" My throat tightened, every part of me screamed to stay quiet, to disappear, but something inside wouldn't let me. "Not this time." "I've been training," I said softly but clearly, "for years." A ripple went through the crowd. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. My dad's brow furrowed. Daniel's jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might break. And then he laughed, but it wasn't the easy, mocking laugh he always used. This one was brittle, sharp. "Training? Please. You think a couple tricks make you strong? You'll never be more than a joke, Rose. You'll never be me." The words stung, but the crowd had seen the truth with their own eyes. For once, the laughter wasn't automatic. For once, doubt had shifted onto him. And that terrified him more than anything. The moment everyone drifted back inside, the weight of what happened hit me like a wave. My hands shook so badly I dropped the stick, my knees giving out as I collapsed onto the grass. My chest burned, breaths coming in ragged gasps. I'd done it, I'd stood up to him, in front of everyone, but instead of victory, all I felt was hollow. I didn't hear Daniel approach until his shadow loomed over me. "Congratulations," he muttered, voice low and venomous. "You embarrassed me, in front of everyone." I looked up, expecting rage. Instead, I saw something worse, hurt. For the first time, I realized his cruelty came from somewhere deeper than just wanting to see me fail. It was fear. Fear of being outshined. Fear of losing the spotlight he'd been handed since birth. "You think this changes anything?" he hissed. "It doesn't. You'll always be beneath me. Always." He turned and stormed inside, the door slamming behind him. The sound echoed in my chest. I sat there under the cold glow of the porch light, tears blurring my vision. Not from weakness, not from shame, but from the crushing realization that no matter what I did, Daniel would never see me as anything but a threat. Later that night, my mom knocked gently on my door. "Rose?" Her voice was tentative, like she was afraid of what she'd just witnessed too. When I opened it, she hesitated before speaking. "Why didn't you tell us?" I wanted to scream, "Because you never listened, because you never cared, because you laughed when he left." But all I said was, "You wouldn't have believed me." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just stood there, silent, and then walked away. That silence cut deeper than any insult. In bed, staring at the ceiling, I replayed the fight over and over. The block, the roll, the look on Daniel's face. I should have felt proud. Instead, I felt trapped, caught in a web of secrets, resentment, and a family that saw only what they wanted to see. And in that darkness, I made myself a promise: if they wouldn't see me now, they'd see me someday. Not as a failure, not as a shadow, but as something they could never laugh at again. That was the night Rose began to die, and Spectre was born. After that night, I stopped trying to earn my family's approval. I realized I could train for 1,000 years and they'd still only see the fragile girl Daniel mocked. So instead of chasing their recognition, I built a world they couldn't touch. Mr. Han introduced me to a private program, an elite training initiative run quietly in partnership with the military. "It's not for everyone," he warned. "It'll break you before it builds you. But I think you're ready." Ready. The word echoed inside me. For years, I had been preparing without even knowing it. I signed the papers under the guise of a scholarship program. My parents barely asked questions, they were too busy celebrating Daniel's college football offers. Finally, a real achievement in the family, my mom had said at dinner, beaming at him. I stayed silent, biting my tongue until it bled. The program was brutal. Dawn runs in freezing rain, obstacle courses that shredded skin from my palms, sparring sessions where failure meant humiliation in front of peers who would gladly replace you. But for the first time, humiliation didn't break me, it fueled me. The instructors had a name for me: Spectre. I'd slip through drills unnoticed, quiet but efficient, striking fast and fading back before anyone knew what hit them. What Daniel mocked as disappearing became my deadliest strength. 3 years blurred by in blood, sweat, and silence. I was no longer just Rose. Rose cried. Rose flinched. Rose wanted to be seen. Spectre didn't need any of that. Spectre only needed results. And when the day came for our final evaluation, I passed at the top of my class. Not the loudest, not the strongest, but the most precise, the most unshakable. But here's the irony: when the general shook my hand and welcomed me to the program's highest tier, the first thought that cut through my pride was Daniel's laughter. Would he even care if he knew? Or would he just find another way to twist it into a joke? That's when I decided I wouldn't tell them. Not yet. I'd let them think I was nothing. I'd let Daniel keep laughing. And then one day, I'd let the truth destroy him. The day of the parade was supposed to be about Daniel. He'd just finished his university program and bragged for weeks about the leadership award he was going to receive. My parents dressed to the nines, beaming like royalty. I walked behind them, quiet as always, the forgotten shadow. We gathered at the base, surrounded by families and cadets. Banners flapped in the wind, brass instruments gleamed in the sun. Daniel strutted ahead, shaking hands, already laughing with his buddies. Then the general stepped onto the podium. His voice boomed, commanding attention. He began the ceremony, calling names, awarding honors. My family clapped, their smiles stretching wider when Daniel's name was read. He strode forward, confident, smug, saluting like he was born to do it. And then, my name. Rose Carter. The sound ripped through the crowd like lightning. My parents froze. Daniel's smile faltered, heads turned, searching, whispering. "Step forward, Spectre," the general said, his eyes finding mine. I moved through the rows, the crowd parting around me. Every step felt like fire in my veins. My brother stared, confusion and fury twisting his face. When I reached the stage, the general raised his hand in salute. To me. Today we honor not just achievements, but resilience. He said, few embody that more than the one we call Spectre. Quiet, relentless, unstoppable. Gasps, murmurs. My mother's hand clutched her chest. My father's lips pressed into a thin line. And Daniel. Daniel looked like the ground had been ripped from beneath him. The general clasped my shoulder, pride in his voice. Well done, Spectre. I stood tall, eyes locking with Daniel's across the crowd. For once, I wasn't the punchline. For once, his laughter had died before it left his throat. And in that silence, I knew I had won. When the ceremony ended, people swarmed Daniel with questions, but not about him, about me. For the first time, I wasn't invisible, and it wasn't because I begged to be seen. It was because I had earned it. Yet standing there, I realized something. This moment wasn't really about revenge. It wasn't about crushing Daniel, or proving my parents wrong. It was about proving myself right. I had spent years chasing their approval, thinking their laughter defined me. But strength isn't about silencing your critics. It's about refusing to let them decide who you are. So if there's a lesson in my story, it's this: people may laugh at you, belittle you, even try to erase you. Let them, because the day you stop needing their validation, you stop being their victim, you become your own weapon. And in that moment, I wasn't Rose the failure anymore. I wasn't Daniel's shadow. I was Spectre,